Morning, we're going to discuss about faults and earthquake. Okay, the most essential learning competency for this topic is to explain how movements along the faults generate an earthquake using models and illustrations. Our objectives are: first, define faults; second, identify the types of faults movement; third, explain how movement along the faults generate an earthquake. Okay, so at the end of this session, we are expected to answer the essential questions. Question number 1 is, what is fault? Second, how faults are formed? Third, what are the three types of faults? Fourth, what is an earthquake? Fifth, when does earthquake occur? And the last question is, why do you think Philippines is always hit by an earthquake? So I have here a picture of a crack in the crust. So this crack or break or fracture in the crust is what we call as faults. How about this picture? This picture shows the effects or damage done by an earthquake. How about this picture? Have you seen this one in your surrounding? Wherein one part is elevated and the other part sinks. Like, have you seen this type of earth surface?
Opo, ma'am.
Okay, so actually, this is an actual or concrete picture of a fault. So when we say fault, it is a break or a crack or a fracture in an Earth's crust, wherein there is what we call a significant movement has taken place. So, according to the United States Geological Survey or USGC, fault is a fracture along which the blocks of crust on either side have moved relative to one another parallel to the fracture. So the Davao fault system consists of the following faults. We have Tamugan fault, we have Lacson fault, we have Dakudao fault, we have Pangyan Biao fault, and New Carmen fault. We need to know this fault because these are found in our place in Davao region. So we can decide whether to build our houses or subdivision along this area. So we are not allowed to build our houses along the fault because this can cause damage if there is an earthquake, because most of the earthquake occurs in these faults. Okay, what do you see in the picture? Okay, in the picture, this red line shows a fault or a break or a fracture or a crack in the Earth's crust. And it lies in the roads. So at first, before the significant movement, we observe that the road is in straight line. Okay, but after the significant movement, we can see that one part of the road is shifted or displaced, meaning after the significant movement, the road is now not aligned. Part of the road is displaced, is shifted. Okay, so this is what we call a significant movement. So when we say significant movement means that the rocks have been displaced or shifted. This is due to the release of energy or geothermal energy inside the Earth. So we all know that the crust is the outermost layer of the Earth that is ranging from 10 to 65 kilometers in thickness. And the uppermost 15 to 35 kilometers of the crust is brittle, wherein they can produce earthquakes. So they are soft. And there are two types of crust. We have the oceanic crust and the continental crust. So when we say oceanic crust, this is the thinnest crust. You can find this one in the ocean floor. Continental crust is the thickest among the two. So ito yung mga crust na nasa land lang without water. So when the fault suddenly moves, an earthquake occurs. But I have a question. Why do you think Philippines is hit by an earthquake? Okay, so this is because the Philippines is along the Pacific Ring of Fire. Okay, so what is this Pacific Ring of Fire? It So this is a picture of a Pacific Ring of Fire. It looks like a ring surrounding the Pacific Ocean. So this is an area or a region wherein most of the earthquake and volcanic eruption frequently occur. So, kaya maka-experience tayo ng palagi ng earthquake. It's because nasa gitna tayo. We are one of the countries that is along the Pacific Ring of Fire. So, ito yung Pacific Ring of Fire. So, this is the Pacific Ocean, Pacific Ring of Fire. This is a region where earthquake and volcanic eruption frequently occur. So, Philippines is one of the countries located along the Ring of Fire. So, Ring of Fire refers to the regions around the Pacific Ocean that are commonly hit by an earthquake and volcanic eruption. So, this picture shows the damage done by an earthquake. This is recorded March 10, 1933. So, what is an earthquake? An earthquake is the shaking, the trembling of the earth, accompanied by the rock movement, extended anywhere from the crust to 680 kilometers below the Earth's surface. So what caused the shaking? It is the release of the stored elastic energy caused by the sudden fracture and movement of rocks inside the earth. So I only cited some of the common and recent earthquake we experience. One of these is the 2013 earthquake. Where this earthquake happened? It's in Bohol. So during this time, during that earthquake, Bohol suffered devastating earthquake which had a 7.2 magnitude. And the ground ruptured called the North Bohol Fault or Inabangan Fault caused a displacement that is shaped like a hanging wall and has been known as the Great Wall of Bohol. Also in February 23, 2017, there's another earthquake. It's 4.6 magnitude happens in Davao City. In fact, this 4.6 earthquake that occurred in Davao City, which resulted to the collapse of the waiting shed in Palma Hill Elementary School, was caused by the movement of one of the faults in Davao City. So really, earthquake is very dangerous. And there are types of faults. One type of fault is the normal fault. Another type of fault is reverse or thrust fault. And the last is the strike slip fault. So we will discuss this along the way. Okay, actually there are three types of fault movements. So when we say movements, this is how rocks and plates move. So it depends on how the movement is done. Is it in vertical or horizontal? So if the movement is in vertical, so meaning the movement of plates and or rocks is up and down, this is what we call as deep sleep. Okay? So but if the movement is horizontal, meaning side to side, this fault movement is called as strike slip. But if there is a combination of a vertical and horizontal movement, this is called as oblique slip. This picture shows the fault model. Okay, I have here also a real model of a fault. So I will show you later. So in this picture, in this side, this is the crack. This is the fault. This is the fracture in the Earth's crust, the fault. And this rock or plate, if the rock is on the top of the fault, that plate or rock is what we call as hanging wall. Okay? If the rock is below or on the bottom of the fault, so if this is the fault, so a rock that is on the bottom of the fault, it is called as foot wall. Okay, remember that? If the rock or plate is on the top of the fault, it's called as hanging wall. And if the rock or plate is on the bottom of the fault, it's called as foot wall. Let's start with the vertical version. So if the movement of the fault plane is up or down or vertical, this fault is known as deep slip fault. Okay? There are two types of deep slip. We have a normal fault and a reverse fault. Let's start with a normal fault. How does this normal fault happen? So a normal fault occurs when rocks break or move because they are being pulled apart. So the movement is the two fault plates move away from each other. So what happened to the plate that is on the top or the hanging wall? So if they are pulled apart, so this plate moves to the like one and this side. So they are pulled apart. So what happened to this hanging wall is it will move down. So it will slide, it will move down. So the movement is downward. Okay? That result to the normal fault. So ganito na ang nangyari ngayon. Okay? So this hanging wall will now move downward or slide downward. So if the hanging wall moves downward, this picture, that fault is what we call as normal fault. So in a normal fault, the hanging wall moves downward relative to the foot wall. This is the foot wall and this is the hanging wall. So a hanging wall is a surface of block or plate that is on the top of the plane of the fault. And the foot wall is the surface or block that lies below the plane of the fault. So another type of a deep slip is the reverse fault or the thrust. So this is a deep slip fault, a type of a deep slip fault which occurs when rocks breaks move because they are being pushed together. They are pushed towards each other. So meaning, kanina, naghiwalay ang dalawang plate or rocks. But in the reverse fault, the two plates move or push towards each other. So what is the result if the two plates move towards each other? The result is this plate that is on the top. So ano gani ang tawag dito? Yung nasa top? It's the hanging wall. Ay, sorry. It's the hanging wall. So what happened kung mag-push together itong dalawa, meaning they will move towards each other. So what happened is this hanging wall will move upward. Okay, so ganito ang mangyari. Kanina, pag away from each other, mag-sink ang hanging wall. But this time, since the two plates or rocks are pushed toward each other, what happened to the hanging wall now is it will move up or upward. So the movement is vertical. So this is now the picture of what we call as reverse fault. Okay? So what caused this formation of reverse fault? This is because the two plates are pushed towards each other. Okay. So giulit siya. So in the reverse fault, the compression force causes the hanging wall to move upward relative to the foot wall. So this is the picture of a normal fault. This is the reverse. So normal, medyo nagbaba ang hanging wall. Ang reverse, i-up ang hanging wall. Okay, so another picture to really understand the difference between normal fault and reverse. So at first, this is the formation of the two plates or rocks with a crack in the middle. So what happened if the two rocks move away from each other in normal fault? So the hanging wall will now sink, move downward. So we'll have a formation like this or this one. So this is the normal fault. How about a reverse? So at first, this is the formation of the two plates or rocks having a fault or a break or a fracture between. So after they are moved towards each other, what happened to the hanging wall? It is lifted. It moves upward. So the result is reverse fault. So ganito ang picture niya. Take note that this hanging wall is the one that moves up and down. Okay? Okay, let's move to the horizontal movement. If the plates or two rocks moves horizontally, they are called as strike slip, meaning the movement of the plates or rocks is left and right. Okay, so in this picture, this shows the horizontal motion. So always remember that when we're going to look at the model of a fault, we always refer to the plate that is far from you. Okay, so between the two, sino ba yung medyo mas malayo sa'yo? Etong plate 1 or plate 2? Laika. Saan
Mas
ba ang
malayo.
para sa'yo, saan ang mas malayo? Etong plate 1 or rock 1 or rock 2?
Rock 1?
Ito mas malapit sa'yo. Diba? Ito mas malapit sa'yo ang rock 1. So, ang malayo sa'yo itong rock 2. Okay? So, dito ka magtingin sa rock that is very far from you. Malayo sa'yo. If this rock or a very far plate or rock moves, okay, remember moves to the left, okay, that strike slip is what we call as left lateral. Or the other name for left lateral is sinestral. So always remember that focus on the plate or rocks that is far from you. So in this case, ito yung medyo mas malayo sa iyo. Pag itong rock na to moves to the left, this is called as left lateral. Okay? And if this far side or far rock moves to the left, it's called as right. It's called as right lateral. So the naming of the strike slip depends on which side the far plate moves. So kung nag-move siya sa right, it's right lateral. So saan ba ang right? So usually that side. Sa left, dito. So ito na example is an example of left lateral. See? At first, pantay pa yan sila. Then later on, since nag-move siya sa left, nagiging ganito na ang formation niya. So this model or illustration shows a left lateral or we call it sinestral strike slip. This picture also shows that a far side or far plate moves to the right. So meaning this illustration or model shows a right lateral. The other name for right lateral is dextral. So we'll say that dextral strike slip. Question about the strike slip, the two types of strike slip, like
Wala na, ma'am.
okay, so anong tawag dito pag nag-move siya sa left?
Left lateral, ma'am.
Or?
Sinistral strike slip.
Very good. How about this plate moves to the right?
Dextral strike slip, ma'am, or right lateral.
Very good. So the movement is left and right, horizontal. Unlike in the first example, the movement is vertical. So when we say horizontal movement, strike slip. So kung left lateral strike slip, right lateral strike slip. Okay, let's proceed. Okay, to further understand the strike slip fault, so this is another model or illustration. So, bibigay tayo ng mas maraming models and illustration kasi yun ang nasa MELC. Diba? Using models, using illustration, the student should be able to identify the types of fault movement. So I will show you some of the illustration models and pictures. Later I will show you the model I have here. And we will identify what type of movement. Okay, this one. So what if parang ganito ang formation ng model or picture? So hindi natin malaman kung saan ba yung side na farther from you. Okay. So ang clue ninyo dito, class, is this side. Okay, yung nasa left. Okay, ito. Ito ang titingnan mo na reference. Pag this block, pag ito na block na to, nag-moves to your left. Okay, so just like this one, so nagkatabi lang. Pag ito na part nag-move sa left, ang tawag doon is left lateral. Okay? Second, so at first, this is the picture before an earthquake or movement. So, pantay pa sila. And there's a crack or fault between the two. So, what happened to this block or plate? It moves to the right. So, this is an example of a right lateral. Okay, remember that. Kanina medyo pa-side ang picture niya. So we can identify which one is right lateral and left lateral. Okay. The third types of fault movement is oblique slip. Oblique slip is a combination of strike slip and deep slip, meaning a combination of vertical and horizontal movement. So this is a model. This is an illustration of an oblique slip. So mapansin natin, nag-move siya down ang hanging wall. At the same time, nag-move din siya left and right. So a combination of both strike slip and deep slip. If we can see this kind of picture or illustration or model, this is what we call as an oblique slip. Okay, question about the types of fault movement.
Wala na, ma'am.
Very good. Okay, so fault determine how two plates move. So kanina we discussed about how the fault moves. If it is if the movement is vertical ba or horizontal. Always remember that each type of fault model or fault movement is the outcome of the different forces. So what caused the movement to the right, to the left, up and down? Actually, this is caused by the different forces that is pushing or pulling on the crust, causing the rock to slide down, slide up, or past each other, meaning nag-side-side lang siya. So what are these different forces? These forces are what we call as stresses. We can also say different stresses that cause the rocks to move vertically and horizontally. So first type of the stress or force is a comprehensive or compressional stress. So this compressional stress happens when two plates are pushed together. So para siyang reverse, no? Yung they are pushed together from the word compress. So they are pushed together or moves towards each other. So the compressional stress now squeezes the rock, causing the rock to fold. Kaya ang tendency, merong parang nag-fold sa mga earth surface. Napansin natin yan. Like chocolate hills, for example. The chocolate hills, for example, class, is an example of fold. Ang mountain, these are example of folds. So, ang tendency niyan kasi ang two rocks or plates are pushed together or towards each other. Kaya nagkakaroon ng folds or mountain. Actually, what stress or force cause that? Compressional stress. So, ano ang result ito? Bakit nagkaroon ng reverse fault? Ito na ang result. Kasi nag-push sila towards each other, nagkakaroon tayo ng reverse fault. Meaning that the hanging wall moves up kasi decompress silang dalawa. So they're often associated with a convergent. Convergent means na compress or compressional boundaries. So usually we can see this one in the compressional boundaries. Okay, the second type of force or stress is the tensional stress. This tensional stress happens when two blocks or slabs of rock are pulled apart. So this time, the movement is they are pulled apart. So it becomes elongated and very thin. So when this tensional stress pulled the crust apart, it breaks into blocks that slide up and down along the normal fold. So, ang result actually nito is the normal fold. So, usually, ang ma-result nito pag they are pulled away from each other is valley. Have you seen a valley? Yung para ganing part sa dalawang bundok, tapos merong part sa gitna na na-sink. Okay,
Opo.
just like this one. Okay, the third force or stress is the shear stress. This is a shear stress experienced at the transform boundaries where two plates are sliding past each other. So meaning, pa-slide lang siya, nag-move siya left and right. So this is often associated with the strike-slip fault. Kaya na-form ang strike-slip faults because of this force or stress, shear stress. So always remember na pag compressional stress, ano ang result? Reverse. Okay? Pag tensional, normal fault. Pag shear stress, strike-slip fault. Okay? And also, what is now the relationship between the fault and the earthquake? Ano ba yung parang how these two related? Okay, so take note that earthquake occurs on fault. So doon talaga mangyari ang earthquake sa mga fault. Pag ang isang earthquake occur in a strike-slip fault, this earthquake is called as strike-slip earthquake. If this earthquake occur on a normal fault, so we all know what's a normal fault. Nakita ko na kanina ang picture and a model. This earthquake is what we call as normal earthquake. But if this earthquake occur on a thrust or reverse fault, this earthquake is what we call as thrust earthquake. So this is how fault and earthquake are related to each other. So depende yan siya kung saan siya na-occur. Okay. So this picture also shows the fault model. So we'll identify what are the significant parts in a fault model. Okay, so this picture shows a hanging wall and a foot wall. So this is the hanging wall because this plate or rocks is on the top of the fault. Okay, this rock or plate is called as foot wall because this foot wall lies below the fault. Okay. Merong another part which we can identify which very significant in the formation of earthquake. The focus. Okay? What is this focus? The focus is the origin of earthquake. Meaning, this is the location or point where the first movement occur. Yung pinakaunang movement na nangyari sa earthquake. Ang tawag doon is focus. So where can we find this point or region or part? This is located underground. Okay, nasa ilalim yan siya ng Earth's crust. We cannot see that. So, in the spot directly above the focus, so if we're going to mark a line from the focus, yung nasa ilalim ng Earth's crust, towards the outer layer, yung sa Earth's surface, pag mag-point tayo, pag mag-ano tayo ng spot directly above the focus, this is what we call as the epicenter. The epicenter now is seen in the Earth's surface. Ito yung spot directly above the focus. So for example, this is the focus nasa ilalim. Gagawa tayo ng line palabas sa Earth's surface. Yun ang spot is what we call as the epicenter. So when the nose says that the epicenter of the earthquake is in Davao City. What does it mean? That the first movement of the earthquake occurs underground of Davao City. Okay? The epicenter is in the Earth's surface, the spot directly above the focus. That's the difference between the focus and the epicenter. Okay, another part which is very important, part that we can point in the fault model is the fault line. Okay, where is the fault line? We all know that a fault is a break or a crack or a fracture in the Earth's crust. So, itong line na to, yung parang may nakita tayo na crack or break, yung parang line, this is the fault line, the trace of the fault. Okay? How about this one? The plane. This is the fault plane. Okay? A fault plane is a flat surface between two pieces where the fault slips. Okay? Saan sila nag-slide? Or fault movements happen. So, this is the fault plate. So, I repeat, ito nasa ibabaw is the Earth's surface. Kumbaga yung land na makikita natin dito sa labas sa Earth's surface. Ang focus is down the underground, down in the Earth's crust. The epicenter is the spot directly above the focus where the first movement occurs. And the fault line is the trace of the fault. Fault plane is the flat surface between the two pieces. Okay, so these are the parts of a fault model. If we're going to point the different parts of fault model, first, so this is the Earth's surface. Okay, the line that we see there is what we call a trace of the fault or fault line. In short, this is the break, the fault. Yung parang nakita natin na line, that is the fault line. So, pag i-open natin itong dalawa, okay, this one is the flat surface between the two plates. This is what we call as the fault plane. Okay? In the fault plane, we can find the focus. The focus is the point where the first movement occurs. Okay, so ito, nasa ilalim yan siya, underground. And if we're going to close that one, and then draw a line from the focus going to Earth's surface, so nandito ang epicenter. So, ang epicenter is makikita na natin sa Earth's surface. Pag gagawa si ma'am ng line from the focus, from the inner point, papunta sa labas, sa Earth's surface, that's the epicenter. Okay? Another one is, ano pa yung hindi natin na ano? So, focus, epicenter, this is the Earth's surface, and the fault line or fault. Okay, so this time we have a formative assessment. Formative assessment is very important to identify if the student really understand the lesson. Okay, so one of the ano. So I have here different models or pictures of types of faults. So I want you to identify what type of fault is this. Okay, so letter A. You observe that this picture, the plates doesn't move up and down. So therefore, this is what type of fault is this? Is it deep slip, strike slip, or oblique? Laika.
Pagpilian lang po yung A, B, at C.
Oo, A, B, C, and muna. A, B, or C? So, pag A, ang movement niya is up and down. Pag B,
B po, B.
side, very good. So, this is what we call a strike slip. But there are two types of strike slip, Laika. Ano kaya ito? Is this a left lateral or right lateral? So what happened to this plate? Does this plate move to the right or to the left?
To the left po.
Very good. So what do you call this type of model?
Sinistral strike slip.
Left. Very good. Left lateral or sinestral. Second model. How about this one? They're the same. A and B. The difference is this plate moves to the right. What do you call this type of fault movement? Is it A, B, or C?
B po.
B. But what particular strike slip?
Dex, dextral strike slip or right lateral.
Very good. It is right lateral or dextral. Very good. Ang galing naman. Next, how about this model? Letter C. What happened is the other plate or rock moves upward. So what type of fault movement is this? Is it deep slip, strike slip, or oblique? It's what we call as deep slip. But what particular deep slip? So see, not only hand, but also under the sea. So when a fault at the bottom of the sea suddenly moves, so the water above it will be affected. So a sudden push from an underwater fault can produce a wave called tsunami. So the most recent and very deadly tsunami recorded in the past decade is the tsunami that hit the northern Japan in March 2011. So tsunami
Ma'am,
is a wave. Yes.
ma'am,
Yes po. So, tsunami is a wave produced when a fault at the bottom of the sea suddenly moves vertically. So, actually, there is also a fault under water. So, in the oceanic crust. So, when there is a vertical movement of the fault in the oceanic crust, meaning yung floor, sea floor, the tsunami is produced. Tsunami is a very big wave that is different from a wave produced by the wind. Okay, so unlike a wave that is formed by the wind, a tsunami is different. This is much more powerful. So we all know that the wind wave, that the normal wave we can see in the seawater are just seawater waves. So in comparison, a tsunami involves a whole deep of the sea from the seafloor to the surface. So from the shore, a tsunami is very low and maybe just a meter high. So, but it travels at the speed of a jet plane. So, medyo mabilis siya. Mapansin natin na wala na yung water sa shore. But bigla na lang itong babalik with a very high height or magnitude. So, when the tsunami reaches the shore, it slow down, but it damage very it covers a very high height. Okay. So, ito yung pictures ng tsunami. So, that's all my presentation. Thank you very much for listening.